Hi and welcome to this DCP Web tutorial. In today's tutorial we're going to use Blender 2.8 to create Planet Mars. Okay, let's go ahead and open up Blender. And like usual we'll click on General and I'm going to turn on my screencast key so you can see what I'm pressing. You'll see the key presses down here. I'm going to click on the cube and delete that. Click on this light source and delete that as well. Let's middle mouse click around so we can see it from this angle. Let's go to File, Save As. I'm just going to save this as Mars-01. So I've got a folder on my desktop. I'm going to save this project as Mars-01. Press Shift and A and we're going to insert a mesh UV sphere. So we have a UV sphere here. I'm going to press S to scale and then type number 4 and then hit the enter key. So now we have this UV sphere. Let's go to the modifier, add modifier, subdivide. So we're going to subdivide here and set it to value of 3 and click apply. Then right click and shade smooth. Let's click on this sphere name here and name it Mars. Let's call it Mars. And then I'm going to minimize this. I need to open up my web browser and I'm going to go to this website. I'll put a link to this same website in the YouTube description and it allows us to download a map. You can see all the different planet maps, so you can take this same logic and build Neptune. You can build any of these planets, Jupiter, Venus, you can do Mercury, got all the different planet maps here, but I'm going to take Mars and I'm going to click down the 8K download here. So I'm going to open up this folder, create a new folder inside and call it images. And we'll just drag and drop this folder, drag and drop this file, this 8K file into this images folder. So we've got this image in here, and then I'm going to go to this other website. I'll put a link to it in the YouTube description. I found it the other day. It's quite interesting, and what it allows you to do is create these backgrounds. So we're going to turn off this sun. I'm going to turn the sun off, and I'm going to set the width to 1920 and then the height to 1080. So it's 1080p resolution. I'm going to click random, and it's going to generate like a background. If I don't like the colors, I can click random, and if I don't want purple, just keep clicking random and it's going to give you a color scheme that you like. Maybe greens might look pretty good, I'm not sure. We'll let this one render out. It's got like a purple and a green sort of shade to it, yeah? And it just makes all these nice sort of star backgrounds. So let's use this one. I'll right click on it, open in a new tab. So just right click, open image in new tab, or you can just I think you might be able to just drag and drop it from here, you know. Let's see, let's right click on it, check its properties, details. Yeah, you can just drag and drop it straight from the window. You don't have to right click on it. Let's close that. Let's close this. You can just drag and drop it straight from here. That should be fine. And we just want to label this 01 because I want to download a few. So let's randomly create another one. This time I'm going to turn off nebula and just click random. I'm just going to generate some ones with stars in it, but I want one with quite a few stars like this. I'm just going to drag and drop this one, and we'll label this one 02. Let's just make sure it's full resolution. This looks pretty good, and we'll just work with 2 maybe. Let's try one more. Let's turn on the nebula again. Let's render out one more, and I think we'll be done. Let's see. Yeah, I think we use this one. So let's drag this one. So we've got 3, and you can go ahead and make as many of these as you like. Let's close this, and I'm going to label this one 03. I'll put a link to both of those websites in the YouTube description. Let's close this folder, go back to Blender, click on this sphere, and we'll go to the material. Let's go into Look Dev View. This is like temporary lighting, and we'll click on the sphere or the Mars planet, click on the material, click New Material, label that material Mars so you know what it is later when you're looking for that material. Let's go to the base color here and click on the little circle on the side of it and select image texture. Then when you select that, click the open button here, open, and go to the images folder and select the 8K Mars and click open. Now you can see that map has been applied to this sphere, and this is our little Mars planet, and we want to now go into shading. So go into shading here. Let's zoom in a little bit, and we want to turn off the specular because we don't want the planet to have like some shine or anything to it. Turn that off. Turn off the roughness, and down here on the material, so make sure you click the planet, then you're going to see the material set up for it here. Let's zoom in down here at the bottom. Let me just make this a bit smaller, and we're going to add a little bump map to this. So press Shift and A, and we'll go to Vector, Bump, and then press Shift and A, Texture, and we want a noise texture. Connect the color to the height, the normal to the normal here. Set the scale to 1.6 and set the detail to 16. You can play around with these settings to see what sort of effect you want. Let's just check this is done right. Let's just see. It's a little bit hard to see with this lighting here. It's not very clear. Here, if I reduce this, you'll be able to see the effect. I'm going to leave it at these settings here because we're going to add some lighting and it might change the way that this looks quite dramatically. So we've got a little bump map set up here, and we're going to come back to this and do some more work here in a moment. Let's go back to the layout. Let's go to File, Save, and let's go to our world settings, and inside the color here, let's set it to black. We want a black background, and let's go to the solid view. Let's press number 1. Number 1 will take us into the front orthographic. Just zoom out a little bit, then press Control Alt and 0. Control Alt 0 will move the camera to that same position, so that the camera is looking directly from the front at this particular sphere. And we want to go to Edit, Preferences, and inside Preferences go to Key Map here, and click in here and type in Fly, F-L-Y. And on this particular shortcut, you want to click here. It's going to say press a key, press the Shift key and F. So you're going to set a hotkey for this fly mode to Shift and F. So when we click on the camera now, we can press Shift and F and use our mouse wheel to zoom in and zoom out. Just use the mouse wheel, rotate it. Just rotate it a few times, not too many times, and then you can zoom out slowly. And we want the planet to be roughly around here. And we're going to, let's see, press G to grab and then X. So we're grabbing the camera and we're locking it on the X axis, and we're going to move our mouse to the left. So we're actually moving the camera to the left. That's in effect, that's what we're doing. So we want the planet to be placed around here, something like this. Now, let's see, we want to now press Shift and A, and we want to insert a sunlight. So the sunlight is here. We're going to press number 7. That takes us into the top view. And where's our camera? Our camera is down here, you see? This is where our camera is. And we just want to drag this light source to the side of this planet. So let's just press G to grab, then X, and just move it across to the side. It doesn't really matter where it is, roughly to the side. Then press 0 again on your keyboard. You can see the light source here now. Let's go to the render view. Now you can see the light. It doesn't really matter where this light source is. Think of it can be anywhere above, anywhere below. It really doesn't matter. But the light is pointing downwards, right? This is sunlight is pointing downwards, and sunlight is always above us. So this is why the sphere is highlighted like this. So if we go to the sunlight, click on it and go to its object data on the, let's see, the y-axis, we want to set it to -45. Now it's pointing at an angle like this. We kind of want it pointing at an angle, so we've got a dark side and a light side. And now you'll be able to see the bump map a lot better, what we did in the previous step. Now, we want to add our background, so let's press Shift and A and press go to Image and go to Images Planes. So let's just do that one more time. I did that a bit quick. Let's go to File, Save. I'm going to press Shift and A, Image as Planes, and then go into here, and I can select one of these 3. I think I'm going to go for, let's go for the, it doesn't really matter which one we select, but let's select number 3 and click Import. So this little square is the plane itself, or the background. We're going to press S to scale, and then just going to move our mouse and scale it out and make it quite big, make it way bigger than what the camera is, right? This dotted line is the camera, and now this is going to be our background. Let's press G to grab it, then X, and move the background to the side a bit. G to grab, then X. Just move it so it's kind of covering the whole camera viewport. That's what we want it to cover it, right? Like this. We can't really see it, so to see it, let's go to the, it's called 03 here, which is a useless name, so let's call it background, and let's click on it. Go to the material. Inside the material, this shade here is set to diffuse. Let's click on it and set it to emission. Now you can see the background. Now you can see it here. You can change the emission. You can make it really bright, you can make it more dark. It's entirely your choice. I'm going to leave it at value 1. And if you don't like that background, so this is kind of green and the planet is red, and for me it don't really work. I just want black stars in the background. So to change this quickly, go into the shading and click on the background, and this is the node setup for the background. And all we want to do is click on this orange box, click on the open here, and we can select one of the other ones. So we've got this one here. Let's open that one. Now you can see purple in the background. So really, in this top part here, we should press 0 so we can see what the camera sees. And that's what this one looks like. This one looks quite impressive, but again, it's not what I want. Let's just go to that render view here. Let's see. Okay, in the shading, we need to make sure we've got render view set here because it was on look dev. That's why the whole planet was this color. Let's go to the render view. Now you can see what it looks like with the actual lighting correct as we set it. I still don't like that, so I'm going to click open and click on the middle one, 02, and that one is just black background with stars, and that's really what I want. I think this is the best option. And what I want to do is click on this planet, and I'm going to click on this image texture here, and I want to add a gamma here. So let's press Shift and A, go to color, gamma, and drag it here in between, and then I want to set this to around 5.9. So I wanted to make it a bit more darker and a bit more looking like Mars, a bit more sci-fi to it, right? Something like this, and we'll improve that with the lighting in a moment. So let's click on the sunlight and set its value to 3, and that will just strengthen it out, and now it looks like a, you know, it looks more like Mars. If you want Mars to look red, this looks nice and red. We're going to press Shift and A. We want to add another light source. Shift and A, go to image, and go to light, and we add a spotlight. The spotlight is pointing downwards. Let's press number 3 on our keyboard, and our camera is over here somewhere. If we go to solid view, we should be able to just about see the camera right here. Maybe you can see that on my screen. The camera is over here, and we want to move the light source or rotate it so it's facing the camera. So let's go to the object data, and on the y-axis we want to set this to, I believe, let's see, we're going to rotate it wrong here. It's on the, I thought it would be y-axis. It's actually, it's the x rotation. We want to rotate it, not y, and we're going to rotate it -90. -90 will make it point towards the camera, but we want to move it backwards. So we can move it on this y value here, and just move it behind the planet to somewhere like around here, right? Something like this sort of distance. You can see that on my screen. It's like about 2 blocks away from the edge of this planet, something like this. We can adjust that later anyway. Let's press 0. That takes us back into the camera view. Click on the render view. It's not really doing much at the moment. What we want to do is move this light source on the X value. So let's move it on the X value, and we want it to be just on the edge here, like on the edge of this planet. You can see this little dot on the edge here. Now let's go into our shading, and we're going to go to the world settings, and you can see these 2 little nodes up here. Sometimes they don't show, sometimes they're off the screen like this. So use your mouse wheel to rotate downwards, and then middle mouse click, drag it down, holding down the middle mouse button, and then you can zoom back in. We're going to press Shift and A and insert a volume scatter. Connect the volume scatter to here, set the density to 0.015, and set this value here to 8. And then go back to the layout, go to the context menu here, this render settings, and inside the volumetrics we're going to set it to tile size 4, which should be pretty good. And let's turn on volumetric shadows, and I think we'll leave it at 16. 16 should be fine. Let's go to the spotlight, go to its settings, and we want to set the power to 40,000. And let's see. Now let's go to file, save as, and let's save this as version 2 would be wise. Let's save this as version 2. Okay, so the next thing we want to do is really move this background, because the background is actually sitting in front of the light source. So let's click on this background here. Let's go into the solid view, press number 7. When we press number 7, we can use our mouse wheel to zoom out a little bit. And this is the actual background, and this is the light source. We want to move this background behind the light source. So let's press G to grab the background. In fact, make sure you click on the background here. It will highlight like this yellow color. Let's press G to grab it, and then we want to move it on the y-axis, the green line. Just move it upwards and place it behind the light source, just behind this light source. Now press 0 so it goes back into the camera view, and let's click on the render view, and now we can see that light source there. And we want to make this background bigger, so let's click on the background, S to scale it, and scale it up so it's much bigger. We want to cover up and make sure we cover all of the camera, right? This dotted line is the camera. We want to make sure the background covers the camera. And let's click on the light source, this spotlight, press G to grab it and then X, and you can move it slightly to cast different types of shadows. You can kind of get it where you think is going to look pretty good. I think around here is okay, something like this. And then what I want to do is go to the light source settings, click on color, and I want to set it to like a sort of orangey sunlight color, but you can go nuts and go green, you can go blue, you can do whatever color you want, right? It's entirely your choice. This is down to you, but I want to go for like an orangey sort of red type color, something like this. Let's go to file, save as, and we'll save this as version 3. Okay, let's go ahead and click on this planet. So we select the planet, let's press shift and A and insert a we want an empty cube here, empty cube, and we're going to press S to scale and scale out the cube so it's larger than the sphere. It needs to be a bit larger. It doesn't have to be, but it's better to just make it a bit larger than the sphere itself. Click on the planet Mars here first, right here, hold down the shift key and then click on the empty. Then move to the viewport, hold down the control key and press the letter P, and we're going to parent the sphere to the empty. So what we can do now is hit the record button, click on the let's expand this way. You need to click on this little drop down here, click on Mars, the planet, and hit the record button and go to the object data and click move over to the location, press the letter I here and I on the rotation. Go to the very last frame, and in fact we should set the end frame to 300. We're going to run it at 10 for 10 seconds. So set the last frame to 300, go to the very last frame, 300, press the letter I and the letter I here, and then on the Z axis, let's see, on the Z we want to set it to minus 180. So it's going to rotate now. The planet is rotating, you can see. It's going to rotate 180 degrees like this. Now the reason why we added the empty is it allows us to rotate the empty. So let's just untick the record button, click on the empty, and then we're going to rotate this. So we're going to press R to rotate and then Y and rotate that on an angle. So now when we click play, the planet will rotate on an angle. You can see like this. So if I left click outside, you can see it rotating like this on an axis, on an angle, rather than it rotating like on a flat trajectory. It looks a bit better when it's rotating on an angle. Like planet Earth always rotates on this sort of angle, right? So something like this looks better, I think. Let's click the pause button. Let's go back to the first frame and let's click on the sunlight here. This is the sunlight facing in this direction. Let's click here. I think it's set to around 3. I think it needs to be a bit brighter maybe. Let's set it to around 4. I think 4 looks better. I think that looks pretty good. Now, what we want to do, let's go back to the shading. Let's go to the render view. Let's see. I think we've done everything in here. Let's just double check. This seems to be all okay. And now you can play around with this scale here on the bump map, and you'll see it a bit more. Now you can see it actually working, right? Before you couldn't see it too clearly. Now you can actually see that working a bit more clearly here. If I zoom right in, you can see the detail affecting the map here. So I normally set the detail around 16, and then you can change the scale here. You don't want to go too far because then it just looks a bit rubbish. So let's just leave it on, for me it works out 1.6 seems to look good. For me that looks pretty good. Okay, so we've got the planet rotating, we've done that part already. That's rotating around, that's good. The only problem is the planet kind of starts off slow and then it kind of speeds and then it slows down at the end. We don't want that. So let's click on this planet. Let's go to the first frame. Let's click here and go to the graph editor. And if we zoom right out, you can kind of see this dip, and then there's another dip at the bottom here. And we're going to move our mouse cursor to the bottom here. You can actually use your mouse wheel to zoom in and out here. And we're going to press the letter A. So move your mouse cursor to the timeline, press the letter A. That will select the keyframe, the first and the last one. Press the letter, move to the viewport, press the letter T and select linear. Now you can see it's a nice flat line. So that means the animation will play at a constant rate. It won't slow down and speed up. Let me just make sure my screencast keys are on. Now when we click play, the planet will always rotate at a constant speed. We don't want it to speed up and slow down like that. Let's pause this, go back to the first frame, click on the camera. So we're selecting the camera now. Let's hit the record button and go to the object data. Let's press the letter I on the location, I on the rotation. Go to frame 45, press the letter I and the letter I here as well to insert a keyframe. Let's go all the way down to around frame 250, press the letter I here, and then go to the very last frame and press the letter I and the letter I here. Let's go all the way back to the first frame and we will press to make sure the record button is on, press Shift and F. So when you press Shift and F, we can use the mouse wheel to zoom in on the planet. Right? We're actually moving the camera forward. That's what we're actually doing. And I want to move it so that the planet is pretty much covering most of the side of this camera viewport like this. So it's pretty close, right? Something like this. And I want to rotate the camera a little bit. So I'm going to press R to rotate. Let's just get this right. R to rotate, then Y. And I want to rotate it kind of sort of this direction, something around here. Then left click to confirm that, and now you can see the planet's going to sort of rotate and move like this, right? And between these frames here, I'm going to go to frame 250, and what I want to kind of do, let's see, I want to move the camera to the side a little bit. So let's press let's press G to grab and then X, and I want to move the camera to the side here a little bit like this. And then I'm going to press R to rotate and then Z. So I want to rotate the camera kind of this way. I want to move it towards this direction. Let's do this carefully. I kind of get the sort of light source on the other side. Let's just press G to grab and then press X. Let's just move it across a little bit. I want to keep that shadow, that sort of shadow effect on the side here. So now our camera will kind of pan across like this, and then on this last frame, let's see what we might do. Let's see, I'm not quite convinced. I think we moved it too far here across the side. So let's go to frame 250 and let's click G to grab, then X. Let's move it back a bit. It's moved too far, right? We don't want to move. Maybe we'll move it towards the center. I think that would be wise. And we want to rotate it a bit more so we can get that sunlight behind the camera. So let's press R to rotate, then Z. Let's just rotate it. Let's see, or maybe let's have a look. I want to kind of keep this sunlight behind. Maybe it looks okay like that from here. Let's just turn off our overlays. Maybe that's okay. Let's click back on the camera. Let's try and move the camera a bit. Let's press G to grab it, then X. If we're going to move it all the way across here, that's a bit too much, isn't it? I want to try and keep this planet in the center, around here. I think here's going to be good. Let's just go to the first frame and play it and see. Don't worry about all this crazy light thing. That's kind of Blender trying to render everything out. It won't actually look like, even though it looks good, it won't actually do that. If you pause a frame and move frame by frame, you won't really see that. It's just rendering it out, trying to render it in real time. So sometimes you see strange things like that, but that actually won't happen in the actual render. I need to learn how to do that. That looks pretty cool. How to actually do that. Let's see. So I think that would be okay. And then on the last frame, what I want to do is rotate the camera again. So let's press R to rotate, and then we want to rotate on the y-axis. Maybe we'll rotate it to around here, something like this. I think it needs a bit of rotation in here. It's very flat. You can see that's so flat. So we're going to rotate this way. Let's see. Rotate. Let's press on this frame here, 250, R to rotate Y. I just want to rotate it a little bit. I want it to be so flat in terms of its rotation. I think we rotated a bit too much on frame 300. Press R to rotate Y. This is down to your own preference. Yeah, there's no kind of golden rules here. I'm just trying to get the rotation as good as possible. I think what you can actually do is click on frame 250. So you can actually click on this keyframe and move it. It doesn't have to be exactly where you've placed it here, right? So we can now click play. Let's see. So rotate this way and then slowly rotate that way. And I think just put spacing at the keyframes a bit more will slow down the movement of the camera and the rotation. I think it will look better. And what I want to do is on this last keyframe, frame 300, finally I want to move, kind of zoom into the planet a bit. So I want to press G to grab it and then press Z so I can move the camera down a little bit. Move the camera down. Kind of want to try and get the sphere like level at the top here and at the bottom here. Then I'll press Shift and F and use my mouse wheel to zoom in on it. Maybe I'll zoom in to around here somewhere, like where we kind of started, right? It's a bit different, but it's fine. I think it'll be fine. And it'll be nice if we can get that light source on the edge again on the last frame. So let's press let's click on the camera, press G to grab it, then X, and we just move it slightly to get that light source kind of on the edge here, like this. So let's press F12. Let's just do a quick test render to see what that last frame looks like. I think that's going to be okay. I think I might move it actually a little bit more. Let's go to the last frame, click on the camera, let's press G to grab, then X, and I might move it. Let's see. I might actually move it and get it covered over like this. I think that looks better actually. Let's see. Yeah, I prefer that. Okay, let's go back to the first frame, click the play button, just see what it looks like roughly. Forget about this crazy light, it won't actually do that in the final render, although it looks pretty cool. I want to actually learn how to do that, to be honest, but we'll see another day. This all looks good, I'm happy with it. Let's go back to the first frame and I'm going to click on the camera and go to the camera object data here, and I'm going to click on depth of field and click the drop down. And on the first frame here, I'm going to press the letter I. To insert a keyframe for the depth of field, I'm going to click this button here, jump keyframe, and it's going to go to frame 45, and I'm going to press the letter I here, and then I'm going to go to frame, let's see, frame 255, I think, 245, I'm going to press the letter I here, and then go to the very last keyframe and press the letter I here. So we've got two keyframes at the end and then these two at the beginning. Let's go to the very first keyframe and set this focal distance to 0.4, and that will blur everything out like this. And go to the very last frame and set the focal distance here to 0.4, and that will blur everything out like this. If we go to the first frame and click play, it's going to blur and then it's going to sharpen. You're going to see this light. Like I mentioned, it won't actually look like that, although it looks pretty cool. If we pause on the frame, you'll see actually what it looks like. We'll click play, and then it will sort of fade out as well, or blur out. That's it, we're done. Let's untick the record button, go to file, save as, and let's just save this as version 4. Okay, so all we've got to do now is just render out the final frames. So let's click on the output settings here, the render settings here, and let's set the render to 96, which should be fine for the render. The viewport you don't really need to set, that's kind of inside of here, but you can set that to 96 as well if you want. And then everything else in here we're going to leave the same. If you want more detail on this light source, you need to set it to tile size 2. For this animation, tile size 4 should be fine. Let's go to the output settings, make sure we set it to 30 frames a second, 300 frames, 10 seconds long. Click PNG and select AVI JPEG. Let's select the open folder and go to my desktop. Let's go to the Blender Planet thing here. Let's call this animation Mars-01. So that will be the name of the file that we're going to create, the AVI file. And all we need to do is go to the first frame and click. In fact, all we need to do is just press Control and F12. Okay, so Blender's finished rendering out all of the 300 frames. So let's close this. Let's just go to File, Save, and we'll minimize this. And then on the desktop, we've got this folder. And inside this folder, we have this AVI file. So let's go ahead and open it up and check out the animation. Let's play that one more time. To be fair, I think it came out pretty well. There's not much I'll probably change on this. Maybe would maybe nice to fly the camera past the planet, but again, this is down to your own choice. This is ready for you to now go and make your own, right? So you can change the light source color, change the background. You know how to do all of that now. You can apply a different texture or different material to this sphere. So you can go to that website and download Pluto or one of the other planets like Neptune. You can do a blue theme, Neptune planet. You can go and experiment with this now. So overall, I'm pretty happy with the end result. Can't really think of much I would change in here, to be fair. I think the lighting is pretty good. I like the dark side and the light side. I think it came out pretty well. Maybe here we can fade to black in post-production or something like this. So let's close this down. I'm quite happy with that. That's the end of this tutorial, and I look forward to seeing you in the next DCP web tutorial.